There are certain things about God that I can never fully wrap my brain around. If my feeble, limited brain can figure out everything about God, if I can explain all the things about God, if I can figure out all the complexities of the most supreme being in the universe, then he ain't all that. I don't want a God that I can figure out. I don't want to be able to figure everything out about him. I want a God who's more than my words and my theology can totally and fully and comprehensively explain. In this episode, we'll look at one of the qualities of God that I don't fully understand, that I fully can't understand. Hopefully, we'll get a better understanding of the fact that God is everywhere. I'm thankful that you took time today to pull up a seat. I hope these few minutes together help you follow Jesus better by deepening your relationship with him and helping you live intentionally for him every day. We're in the middle of a series on stuff about God. We've looked at the fact that God is holy, that he is love, that he is all powerful. Let's look at some verses that help us to see that God is everywhere. In Jeremiah 23, chapter 23, verse 23 and 24, God says, "Am I a God at hand, declares the Lord, and not a God who is far away? Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declares the Lord? Do I not fill the heaven and the earth, declares the Lord?" In Solomon's prayer of dedication found in 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 27, Solomon asks, "But will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built?" From these two passages, we see that there is no place we can go to get away from God, and that there is no space that is big enough to contain him. God is everywhere. The big theological word for this is omnipresence. God is everywhere. God does not have size or spatial dimensions and is present at every point of space and history with his whole being. But God acts differently in different places depending on the situation. God is not subject to the restraints of time. He's not subject to the restraints of space. He has no limits. He is unlimited with respect to space. He transcends all spatial limitations and yet is present in every point of space with his whole being. Simply to sum it up in real easy English that I can understand, God is everywhere at all times, and he is perfectly present in every situation. The other gods that Israel encountered and the early church competed with, those gods were regional gods. Some of the gods were bound by region or city or district boundaries, even national boundaries. The God of the Bible is not bound by those political religion. He's not bound by political regions. He's not even limited by your imagination. God is literally everywhere. So what is the significance of God being perfectly present in every situation? What does it matter if God is omnipresent? In Matthew 28, 18 through 20, if you haven't figured that out by now, that is probably my favorite passage in all the Bible. Jesus says these words to his disciples: "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." The first significant thing we see in this passage is that God is with us always, even to the end of the age, even to the end of our days, even into the end of all of time, which he's in control of. Because God is omnipresent, we are never alone. Even in the quietness of your room, you are not alone. God is right there. So be still and listen for him. Even when the world seems to be falling apart or caving in on you, God is there. Let him strengthen you. Be still and wait on him to renew you. The second significant thing we learn is that because God is everywhere, His power is always available to us. His power is there in the hospital room when we get bad news. We can get through this because he is there. When we face temptation, we can win because he is there. You can quit looking at porn. You can say no to that next hit. You don't have to do that because God is there and his power is available to you. When their days are hard, you can flourish because the all-powerful, all-knowing God is there. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere so that he can sustain us, so that he can discipline us, so that he can bless us. To sustain us. He holds life together and keeps it going. Go take a look at Colossians chapter 3, verse 17. He's also there to discipline us. Hebrews 12:6 says, "For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastises every son whom he receives." Because he loves you and wants the best for you and me, he disciplines us. He does it perfectly because he is holy. He does it perfectly because he is love. Because he is ever present, he can discipline right when we need and in just the ways that we need it. Because he is ever present, he can discipline us rightly when we need it in just the way that we need it. He can discipline us because he is everywhere. Because he's everywhere, God can also bless. He can bless us. To me, the greatest blessing in the Bible is the fact that God is present. Throughout the pages of the Bible, there seems to be hints of it as we see how God is present with Israel throughout the Old Testament. Even in the birth of the narrative of the birth of Jesus, we see that his name should be Emmanuel because he is present with his people. In the gift of the Holy Spirit, we see God is present in us. Because God is everywhere, he can bless us and give us what we need in that situation. As we understand the truth that God is everywhere, it should influence the way that we live our everyday lives. You can know that you are never alone. No matter how bad you've been, no matter how desperate the situation might be, God is present. You can tap into the power of God each and every day in each and every situation that you find yourself in. He can sustain you. You can expect God to graciously and perfectly dispense consequences for your disobedience. You can expect God to bless you so that you can experience the abundant life he promises in John chapter 10, verse 10. God is present. I need to live like I believe this. You should live like God is present. So this week, what is one way that you can live like God is perfectly present in every place that you go? I'm praying for you. May you experience the presence of God today. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of Pull Up a Seat. If you've not yet subscribed, do that now so you can get content as soon as it comes out. Also, please help us get the word out by sharing on social media and inviting others to pull up a seat. Until next time, grow in your relationship with Jesus and find one way to live intentionally for him. See you next time when we pull up a seat.